No Further Information, a podcast for cops, by cops, about cops, but written by traffic violators. Every comedian and podcaster has a riff about lane changes without turn signals and slow drivers, but here's my hot take on them. Make it punishable by death. I'll bet a lot more people would start fucking signaling their turns all the goddamn time. That would make for an awkward traffic stop, though. Ma'am, this is gonna hurt you a lot more than it's gonna hurt me. Where do I appear for court? In hell, bitch! Today's guest was a deputy, detective, and finally a sergeant for a large Texas sheriff's department. How come some sheriff's agencies call themselves an office, while others call themselves a department? What's the difference? We don't call it a police office. Maybe we should? The Left Elbow Police Office has a pretty good ring to it. In his time on the job, Deputy Bob had close calls, did some of the most dangerous work in undercover operations and gang intelligence, and after retiring from a storied 30-year career, decided to press on with a new assignment, where he helps change his kids' lives. And he did it all while struggling with his own family challenges, always maintaining his integrity and using a calm tone of voice. I, on the other hand, struggle with my body mass index and I'm constantly yelling. This is why my guest is better than me. I'm pleased to be able to sit down with Officer Bob, a police veteran, and get to know him. I don't think he really speaks Spanish, though. At least, he speaks Spanish about as fucking well as I speak Chinese. Down, 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 down. Down, 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 down. Down, 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 down. It makes me so down, 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 down. Down, 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 down.
Hey, this is Officer Bob. I'm a police officer at a small school district.
We know each other because we trained, and we teach at the academy, and we teach a very important class. Alert, for those people who don't know, is active response to, active shooters, police response to active shooters. I love this class because I feel like it weeds out the weak cops. What has been your experiences teaching Alert to both young new cops and in-service cops?
I've seen a big difference in both. I mean, you got the veteran officers that have been around for a long time that have never done anything like this. And so they are learning, and it's something new to them, but it's something, and I believe that it's necessary because everybody needs to be on the same page. Whereas with the cadets at the academy, it's a learning experience for them. They've never seen this. So you're exposing them to something completely new and seeing the reaction of both. It's very similar, but different in a way.
I find it just absolutely mind-blowing that there are cops on the street right now who've never taken this class.
Well, I've worked with a lot of police officers that have been on the job for 20, 25 years and have never had an interaction where they've had to actually take action, take out their gun, or arrest somebody out on the streets. And that's just certain positions that they've held at their departments. They don't have to do that. I mean, that's not part of their jobs.
I don't care. I don't care. I mean, you're off duty, and we're gonna get to your story that you told me. Mm-hmm. You're off duty. You're fucking buying groceries or picking up milk, and there's an active shooter. You're going to pick up your son at school, and there's an active shooter. I mean, that's the whole edict, right? I mean, that's the perk of the job. You carry a shield and you get out of summonses, right? And you carry a gun in case shit goes down. Mm-hmm. So and it's now mandatory, thankfully, for all guys, all peace officers. But, it just blows my mind that I think there's this sense of like, that's not for me. I don't need that. We're not allowed to be unprepared.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think you have to practice. You have to stay up to date on all the techniques, the tactics, and you have to be ready for it because in today's modern world, it's going to happen sooner or later, and it's going to happen close to you, to a family member, or a situation where you're at, an event that you're attending, it's inevitable. It's inevitable because it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna happen. It's not a matter of if. And then before we get to you, the thing with alert too is it kind of bums me out. I wish there was a pass fail. I mean, there's a pass fail for the final. Everybody passes the final. But some of the shit that you and I have fucking seen in alert training, I'm like, oh my God, we're letting this guy. But, we don't have any control over that.
Well, and I spoke with some people at Alert recently, and, there's a lot. What we teach is called the indirect portion.
Right.
And that, because they have their instructors that come out and put on the class, like for train to trainer. We can't do that class.
Right.
Because we're not with Alert or whatever.
Right.
The indirect class, they're going to actually put in some checks and balances or semi-audits. They're going to actually send one of their instructors to come out there and make sure we're doing it correctly and that we're actually teaching what we're supposed to be teaching. So that's the latest I've heard. I don't know when that's going to go into effect, but I think that's something that they're talking about.
I wish there was a rubric for the students, right? And you get to check off and say, well, he made this correct decision. And, the thing too is like in a lot of these scenarios, and I don't want to disclose the scenarios, but a lot of these scenarios, look, there may not necessarily be like a right way to do something, right? But are you following what we taught you is kind of key. And
I wasn't there just like this last time. I was there the second day when we did the actual scenarios, and I had one of the cadets ask me, she said, am I supposed to do this or do that? I said, we went over that or they should have gone over that with you the day before. I said, this is the actual scenario portion. I'm not your training. You should have been paying attention yesterday. I know and so she got mad at me, but because she ended up getting shot in the scenario and stuff and didn't follow the training
by me.
Didn't follow the training that she received the day before.
Yeah.
And it was one of those simple situations where, you've got to have the coverage front, back, left, right, up, down.
This is one of those classes where there's this interesting dichotomy between how fucking serious and hands-on the shooting portion is, right? The simulation portion of it is. And the amount of book, and they're equally important, the book part of it. This is one of those weird classes where they're equally important. Fucking hazmat, maybe not so much, but yeah, man, like you gotta fucking pay attention. And people kind of treat this, or at least students do, and they kind of treat it like, I'm just waiting for the shooting.
Until it starts coming back at you. That's why they use the force-on-force scenarios to put you in that situation where somebody's going to actually shoot back at you if you don't take action or do what you're supposed to and rely on that training that you've received. So you and I have seen in the scenarios and in the several classes that we've done, because I think we've done 6, 7 of them now, and you've seen the reaction from the cadets. And we cover everything with them on how and we give them an opportunity. And I tell them this is a winnable scenario if you put into practice what you've learned.
Yes, yeah. It's funny you say that. Virtually every scenario in the street, and there's a sliver, is winnable, and that's what we are teaching you. Whether it's a oral negotiation with a suspect or you have to de-escalate. This is winnable. Everything is winnable. Short of you just getting a fucking safe dropped on you, Looney Tune style, everything's winnable. And then the last button on alert, I promise this isn't going to be a fucking alert episode. The last button on alert is, nothing's scarier to me than cowardice. I've tapped out.
And you were there when I told him, hey, this is a scenario, but in this particular scenario, if you get shot, you continue on. You do not give up. You continue on. You fight through it just like you would in real life. Unless you're down for the count, you're good. You're still in the fight.
If I can breathe, I'm going to keep fighting.
And so in that one particular scenario that we had, you saw after you shot him with the ammunition gun, he froze.
Not only that, he holstered.
Yep.
And then we had one student call index herself. I'm like, you don't fucking call it. And, the thing about cowardice is, I used to tell new students and other civilians, I said, cops are brave. Cops are brave. Cops are brave. Bravery is not just the utter absence of fear. I'm fucking scared all the goddamn time when I walk up to a car I go to, but it's what you do in its face.
And I tell people the same thing, that if you're not scared out there, if you're not afraid, then something's not right with you. It's a situation because you're walking into a situation you don't know what's there, what's coming up, what's about to happen. And I've been with other officers where we've been in a situation, and all of a sudden I turn around and they're nowhere to be found, and I'm like, "Where were you?"
Oh, I was checking out.
I thought it was the other car.
Yeah.
I thought it was this, or just give me some excuse.
No, motherfucker. Yeah. On that point, you told me a story, and this is going back to always being prepared. And cops are too lackadaisical on fucking off duties. I've gone to the Target where the cop is standing there plain black t-shirt, police, no vest, on his phone with his shield and a gun and no handcuffs. You can't say the same, right, for your off duties?
No. I mean,
can you tell me that story?
Yeah. I was fresh out of the academy, been out of the academy about 6 months. Hadn't been a year yet. And I was working a part-time job at a restaurant.
As one does when you first get out.
You got to make some money and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm out there, and the restaurant didn't close till about 4 a.m. So It was about 12 o'clock, and somebody came in and told me, they said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I said, "Man, they get, they just for protection, security, it was a rough neighborhood." Mm-hmm. And sure enough, less than an hour later, somebody runs in the restaurant. I'm standing there by the front door, by the counter, and they're like, "Hey, there's a guy outside with a Tech 9. Oh, crap. So I'm thinking, what's going on outside? So I step out the door, and as I step out the door, sure enough, right across the street, it's 2 lanes going left and right. Mm-hmm. And across the street, there's a guy pointing a gun. My focus automatically, when you exit the door, you get the tunnel vision. All of a sudden, you zoom in on that gun. That guy's got a gun. And just as I'm coming out, I'm thinking to myself, I'm fixing to have to shoot this guy. So I'm drawing my weapon, and he fires the shot. As I'm walking out, bam, I hear the shot. I don't even see who he shot, who or what happened. Right. My focus is on him now because he's just fired a shot. So I cross the street. I don't even recall looking left to right to see if there was traffic coming. My goal was, he's got a gun. I got to stop him. Mm-hmm. He turns around, gets into his truck. And I'm already made it across the street. He never saw me. I opened up the door. Luckily, he hadn't locked it. Wow. And he had put the gun down beside the seat to start up his truck, get the keys, and start up the truck. So I open up the door, grab him, yank him out. And all of a sudden, I've got him in my hand, in my left hand, and I've got my gun in my right. And he starts moving around, shaking. So I'm like, oh, crap. So I give him the elbow with the right, trying to get him under control and up against the other car. I holster my gun, get him on the ground. And that's when I realized what had happened. There's a guy laying in the middle of the street. And and there's a crowd because this was a little busy restaurant area. Mm-hmm. They had little bars and restaurants and different things. And somebody runs up to me and says, "Man, you need some help." I said, "Call the police. Tell them the officer needs assistance right now." And
I'd be like, "Wait, what are you then?"
I said, "Can you check on that guy? Because I've got him down on the ground, handcuffed." Yeah. And he said, "Man, he got shot in the chest." Mm-hmm. So it seems forever. You hear the sirens coming. And you're sitting there, their adrenaline's pumping. You got the guy on the ground. Best sound in the world, though. And luckily, when the police did pull up, DPD responded. They got there pretty quick, and I knew the guy that got there first. He said, "You okay? You okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good." He goes, "What happened?" "Oh, this guy." I said, "I came out the restaurant. He shot the guy right there in the middle of the street." So they got him we got him in the car, and he real quick told me, he said, "Hey, you need to call your people." I said, "Yep." So I got in the car, called my supervisor. They said, "We're going to send internal affairs. Did you have to shoot?" I said, "No, I didn't have to shoot." I said, "But
I did elbow the fucking shit out of the guy."
Yeah. So he's in the car and read him his rights and do all that other stuff. And they take him away. And I can recall, right after that, DPD had their people out there. I had to go downtown and make a statement. Mm-hmm. They checked my gun, and it was funny because he said, "You ain't shot your gun, have you?" And I said, "No." He said, "You got a lot of dust in the barrels." Yeah. So it's been a while since I cleaned it. So, that goes back to being ready. But
oh, you definitely haven't fucking fired this gun. Yeah. This thing hasn't been fired since 1984. What happened to the victim?
The victim was a security guard that night. He had been at the bar working, and there was the guy that shot him was in there, had been drinking all day, and he started harassing the ladies. And so they told him, "Hey, get him out of here." So he goes over there, tells him, "Hey, you need to leave." The guy starts mouthing off, says, "I'm not afraid of you, man. I got one of those in my truck," or whatever. And he follows him outside. The guy goes to his truck. The guy follows him out into the street, the security guard. Mm-hmm. The guy gets his gun, turns around, points it at him. And it was a lucky shot because they were probably about 20 feet away, mm-hmm. 20 yards away. and got him right in the chest. The security guard, I've still got the story. It was all over the news that night. And he had a vest, had it in his vehicle.
Wow.
Didn't put it on that night.
Oh.
The guy was married, had several kids. His wife was sick, and family couldn't afford anything. And like I said, that night, that's why they tell you need to wear your body armor. I mean, if you've got protection and you leave it in your car, you're just asking for trouble. I mean, because you never know in one of these incidents when something like this was all of a sudden, we never had issues up there, and all of a sudden you got a guy that shows up with a gun outside. You have to deal with it. And
I mean, you witnessed this fucking guy's murder.
Yep. The guy that shot him ended up getting 50 years. I went and testified, and as far as I know, I think he's still in prison. I haven't checked in a while.
Yeah. Poor guy just making $12 an hour trying to support a fucking family.
And, the security guard, what he should have done is probably just escorted him to the door.
You're done.
You're done.
You're done at the
You didn't
street.
have to follow him out into the street, and he made that mistake.
And we're not to speak ill of the dead or whatever, but, applying that same tactic to us or police. I'm not on the job anymore, but applying that same tactic to us. Know when you've won. Know when it's you've achieved your criminal justice objective. All right, man, you're free to leave. Drive safe. Man, fuck you. Okay, that's fine. I will fuck myself. Thank you.
And a lot of people let that get to them. And you've seen where I tell the cadets, I said, one of the best weapons you have is knowing how to talk to somebody,
or
knowing how to
worse.
de-escalate. Yes,
or worse, depending on your personality.
Yep.
I'm talking about myself.
Well, I've been in situations where the officer that I've been with,
right.
Has started escalating the situation to where it's aggravating the situation. It's pissing the person off, and we're about to get into a fight. And I've always been one of those. Hey, work smarter, not harder. If you can get this guy to calm down and do what you tell him, that's a lot better. Why rile these guys up? And even in the jails and out on the streets, I see it all the time where these officers. It depends on how you talk to people. And you've seen how I talk to people. Yes, sir. No, sir. I'm polite as can be. Kind of like the old Patrick Swayze Roadhouse movie. Be nice until it's time to not be nice.
Right. And you've already won was my motto on the street. So you hooked this guy up for a DWI. You towed his car. You wrote him $600 worth of summonses. You're fucking suspending his license. You're about to stick him with the biggest goddamn needle he's ever seen in his life. And then he calls you a chink or whatever. Okay, fine. Sure. You've already won. Go home. You're going to go home to your bed. And then just quickly on on your off-duty incident, I don't understand the vest is in the car. Next to me or whatever, because I worked with a guy who he was a patrol cop and didn't wear his vest. Oh, my back. Motherfucker, you ain't gonna have no back problems when you're dead. And this always being prepared, right?
Well, the vests aren't comfortable.
No, they're not.
And
we're in Texas.
Yeah, and it is super hot. I get home and my shirt's soaked.
Yeah, we're on the interstate. We're working crashes. 100 feels like 130.
Yep, exactly. And so, to me, I've always been one of those that prepare for the unexpected. I mean, you don't know, but just in case, I worked with a guy on one of the federal task forces, and we needed something. I said, hey, I got that in my car. He said, man, you got everything. I said, I prepare for the situations, and I'm ready in case we need something.
Yeah, your personality. We've known each other for less than a year now, working together. But yeah, you definitely strike me as that personality, and I instantly gravitated towards you and sought your tutelage because I came into Alert new. Just to clarify for my audience, Alert is a Texas, it's a nationwide, but it's an active shooter course, and then you have trainers who have been trained by Alert. And then you have those who help out. I'm the helper, I'm the fucking, I get the fucking, donuts and, I make copies and shit. But with an eye on eventually teaching. But anyway, so it was important for me to find someone who could, and thank God you were there, because had we had, a poor trainer at the helm, you worked at a sheriff's office for 30 years, right?
Yes, sir, I did.
And during that time, you were in all types of divisions, right?
I started off working detentions. From there, I got recruited into narcotics. I worked narcotics, and I was assigned to different task forces. So I've worked with the DEA. I've worked with the FBI. I was a task force officer with DEA. I was a task force officer with Homeland Security Investigations. And my last assignment was actually doing gang investigations with DPS with their gang unit.
How was gang different from dope?
Basically, you're working the same thing because that's how they make their money.
Right.
And so they're out there selling dope. So the majority of our investigations, even though they were gang related and gang members, they were still doing dope.
They rub elbows.
Yep.
Yeah. What about gang investigations is unique? I feel like that it takes a special kind. Anybody can work fucking dope, but it takes a special kind of officer to do gangs.
Well, and once again, it goes back to knowing how to talk to people.
Right.
Because
that's what I mean.
Gang members. We documented a bunch of them, and so one reason that DPS came to the sheriff's office is because we have the jail, and they wanted to be able to talk to some of these people to identify and document gang members and stuff, because that's one thing that wasn't being done more. I mean, there's over last I saw, and it's been a while since I worked the gang unit, but they had over 10,000 documented gang members in the state of Texas. But most cities would not admit that there is a gang problem or that they have a gang issue, because if they did, people wouldn't move to their city.
We don't have crime here, not in Left Elbow. Did you find that gang members, when you're conducting these investigations and you're interacting with them, did they have this sense of like, what, me? I'm not a gang? Or was it more like, yeah, I'm a fucking I bang, and I will cooperate with you within the boundaries of what I'm willing to do?
Most of them denied it, and they said, hey, we're just a group of friends. We're just friends. We're just hanging out together.
Who have the same tattoo and commit crimes. I'm not a fucking scientist, but wait a minute. Are we a gang? Yeah.
And so like I talked to one guy, and he's like, he was supposed to be a Crip, and he's like, well, no, he denied. He said, I'm not a Crip. But then I go on his social media, and he's over there throwing the big C gang signs and all kinds of other stuff. And I'm like, so why are you doing this? Oh, he didn't know how to explain himself.
I'm just a big Charlotte Hornets fan,
I had one guy. He had a bunch of Dallas Cowboy tattoos, the stars, the 214 area code and stuff, which is known. Tongo Blast uses that. And I asked him, because a lot of times I would flat out ask him, hey, are you Tongo? He said, no, I just like the Dallas Cowboys. I'm like, oh, come on. And it started laughing because he was just like that, a little bit feminine.
A little feminine. Yeah.
I just like the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. Okay, who's your favorite player? Like you start grilling, like, how are we looking this year? What's our O-line? What's the end road for gang investigations? I mean, dope is getting dope off the street. Sex crimes is finding. What's the end road for gangs? I
talked to a lot of the younger ones that were just getting into it, and I talked to the OGs, like they say, I've been in the gang for years and years. The old guys that have been in and out of the prison system, and a lot of them try to get out, but I used to talk to a lot of people in the jail that used to say, man, this is the last time I'm coming to jail.
Okay.
And I'd see them there a month or two later. What happened, man? They go out and they go right back to the same people that they're hanging out with before. They can't get a job, can't get no money, so they go back to dealing dope, and they end up back in jail again, or they get hooked on it. So it's like a never-ending cycle. And so these old gangbangers, they're still involved, not as much as the younger ones. And and then we've got because you got your street gangs, then you got your prison gangs and stuff. And what I saw prior to leaving the gang unit was they used to be the camaraderie. You the gang stuck together. Hey, you're my brother. We're gonna do this. We're on the same gang. But then I started seeing the changes where now it's all about money.
Yeah.
How can I make my money? So blacks were working with the whites were working with the Hispanics, blacks and Hispanics, and the gangs were intermingling because it's all about the mighty dollar.
Does that complicate investigations?
It does, in a little bit of a way, but the bottom line is it's all about money.
And the end road for law enforcement is what? Are we going to break up the gangs?
And I don't know if you can ever really do that.
You know what I mean?
I mean, right now we're hearing the influx of the Venezuelans coming in, and the new gang that's coming into town and taking over. For a while back, the MS-13, and then the other gangs, Tongo's still one of the biggest ones in the prison system and stuff. So, bottom line is you just try to get them off the streets. You want to target the ones that are out there doing harm, hurting people. Those are the ones that we want to target and get off the street. So,
is there any road for who is there more hope for, the old ones or the young ones just getting in? I mean, the old ones, yeah, and it sounds like a dumb question, but I say that because, the old ones, I'm thinking like Danny Trejo, kind of thing, but like, I found the old ones to be the most respectful. Yes, sir, boss. They generally didn't fuck around.
And, in gang investigations, the older prison gangs, they don't like the up and coming ones because they don't have that respect.
Right.
The respect's gone. They don't care who, like I said, the bottom line is the money. How am I going to make this money? Hustling, doing all that stuff.
It's weird. There was a code of ethics.
At one time there was.
You don't hurt children. You don't hurt women, but that's all gone out the fucking window. So who's there more hope for getting out of the life? Is it the young ones? Is it the old ones?
I think the old ones have just had enough and said, I'm done. I don't, I've got kids. I've got a family. They're still inside them, but they don't want, they just want to stay out of and just live their life and stuff. But
your fucking prefrontal cortex develops and you're like, oh, this is fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Because, really when we talk about, well, I just can't seem to get out of the life, or I promise I'm not going to be back. Look, what are the fucking roads really for gang membership, death or jail, really?
Yep. There's not a lot of future in this kind of activity. So the young ones, like I said, sooner or later they start figuring it out, but at the beginning you can't tell them anything. I mean, it's just like the younger generation. You can't tell them anything anymore.
Are cartels using American gangs, or have they just? Yeah, right. They're employing them to conduct.
Cartels have been using the gangs for many, many years,
right? Yeah.
And that they send them down here. The gangs down here work with them. They get their little bit of money. The cartels get their money. So, like I said, it's all about the money, and there's a lot of money in this, and going back and forth. But to me, the ones that are making the money are the cartels in Mexico. I mean, here you're working with them, you're cooperating with them, but the amount of cash flow, even though it's not as much as they're getting over there.
What was your favorite assignment during your time on the job?
I enjoyed working narcotics. I mean, I worked narcotics for many, many years.
Better than gangs?
Yeah. I think I enjoyed narcotics working a little bit more.
Just hearing what you're saying, it seems to me that you get a little more return from a law enforcement perspective. You get a little more return on your investment, right? It's a little more tangible. You can arrest the person and then go up the web and all that.
Well, narcotics is one of the divisions that you start from the beginning to the end. And most officers
in terms of the prosecution
of the case and,
right.
and the whole process, because most officers or detectives will work the case once the street officer has been out there. They take the report,
right.
Then the detective comes in and does the rest of the stuff. But in narcotics, we would get a phone call. Hey, this house across the street is selling drugs. Can y'all do something about it? So then we'd open up an investigation, right. Try to develop an informant, try to go get as much information as we can about that and start the investigation. And then if we had an undercover that introduced us, or we had an informant or whatever, we got into the house. There's all kinds of options you can do in your investigation when you're doing narcotics or working narcotics. Once we arrested the person, then, you're still not finished. You got to file the case and then go to court. And if you wrote a good case, most of the time they would plea out. I had to go to court very few times, because if you had a good rock solid case,
right.
and you did your job correctly, then
they'll take a plea.
Yep.
And it seems like there is more investigation. There's more detective work. I'm using air quotes. And did you ever have to go undercover?
Yeah, I did some undercover work. And
did you change your voice? Yeah.
No.
He goes, I like the Dallas Cowboys.
I was in the I did one where I was at an apartment complex, and I was buying some cocaine from some dope dealer, low level dope dealer.
But it wasn't for work. It was just for
and we're in there, and they spot the surveillance team. We had it was the supervisors, the lieutenant and the sergeant were out there in the parking lot of this apartment complex.
In a van that says not police.
They were they were parked in a truck, and so I'm there and buying the drugs, and the guy's like, "Hey, we think there's some cops outside." I'm like, "Well, fuck that! Give me my shit. Let me get out of here."
Fuck out of here.
So they came in, I saw where they were hiding the dope,
right.
And they had a pretty ingenious way of what they were doing. They actually had it up in the top portion of the door. They had dug out a hole, and they were hiding the drugs up in there. So if you're doing, if you're a typical person, you're not going to look at the top of the door.
Yeah.
And so they gave me my stuff, and I got out of there. And then we came back. I wrote up the search warrant to come back and arrest them later on. But I told the supervisor, man, they spotted you guys big time. They thought you guys were cops. I said, y'all should have acted gay. Put your head down in the other guy's lap or whatever. Say it's just a couple of gay guys.
And he's like, we did. How did they still know we were cops? That's interesting. Typically, the UC doesn't go back to make the collar.
We were like at the narcotics unit that I was part of. We had probably about 10 officers, which we also did and I told you it was we did our own tactical portion of the stuff. So we would do the entire investigation. We didn't call on the SWAT team to come in and do our entries. We would do the entries. We would secure the location. We would collect our own evidence, and so we did everything. So we did the whole process,
running and gunning. Yeah.
And we had specialized training. We went through a lot of different training. I even went up to the military, Fort Leonard Wood, and received some training out there with them, with some of the soldiers out there, and that was a good experience going out there and training with them.
I love that. That sounds cool.
And they were. We did, like I said, we did everything.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite portions was always the surveillance portion. When you're following subjects, trying to identify other people involved in the case. And so surveillance, to me, it was one of those things where
cat and mouse.
Yes, you're following them, but you don't want them to know that you're following them. And so what was funny is Training Day came out around the time that I was working narcotics too and stuff. And I'm like, I saw the movie and I'm like, oh, come on now. You really can't do a lot of that stuff.
That's your super troopers. That's narcotics super troopers. Like, oh man, we do that shit all the time. But a lot of accountability too. You have to follow procedure and the laws and not get fucking killed, but be cool and street smart. A lot of skills required, right?
Well, as a narcotics officer, if you're out there doing some
shady shit,
it's going to catch up to you. And so, like I said, we had a small team, and the small team, I would go through the door with any one of those guys because I knew that. When we used to joke around and play around, but when it came time to do the work,
you got it.
They were there. Yeah. And I knew that if I went through a door and something bad happened, they were going to be there for me too, and I was going to be there for them. So
that's important too, that you guys are catching or cleaning what you're catching, because you all have to be on the same page. And
so a lot of people didn't realize that working together and the long hours and being in the van for the takedown and we did it for many, many years.
That's why the gay thing makes sense, right, yeah. When did you come the closest to kind of actually fearing for your life? That butt pucker moment?
It actually happened when I was assigned with working with the DPS gang unit. Uh-huh. We were after a guy that was in a white supremacist gang. I think the gang was called Sons of the Aryans, culture. Sons of the Aryan Culture, SAC. Uh-huh. And we were after a guy. He had big old tattooed letters on his neck, about 2 inches wide across his neck, SAC.
And the 88 and 13 and all that
and
stuff.
We went up there to his he was staying at a hotel, mm-hmm. and so a team of us went up there and did a knock and talk, knocked on the door. We had a warrant for his arrest, and his girlfriend told us he's not here, but he should be back in a little bit. So we said, okay, well, we're going to hang out at the hotel. So my partner and me, we were outside in the parking lot, and we had a team inside, and if he made it past us and got up to the hotel room, then they could take him down.
Wait, you're not worried she's going to tip him off?
We had an officer there with her. To make sure she didn't make any phone calls.
You got a fucking gun to her head. And listen, bitch. Don't you fucking, I'm calling my mother. I'm ordering a pizza.
And sure enough, he shows up about an hour or so later. We're sitting out there in the parking lot. Me and my partner, we're in the parked over in the corner, and the SUV comes around, and we say, hey, I think that's our guy. And he comes cruising through the parking lot real slow and kind of looks over towards us too, and we're trying to hide because we're in our vest and trying to hide the police, the big sign that says police. So yeah, that's going to be him. What do you want us to do? You want us to take him down when he comes around? What are we going to do? And so they say, well, when he parks, go ahead and take him down or whatever. So me and my partner get ready. We get, we're in position. The car comes back around, and We pull out behind it, cruising slowly. He goes around to the front of the hotel, parks in a parking spot. And so we pull in behind him.
It's obvious at this point.
Yeah, he knows it's up. So we're like, hey, we're going to go ahead and get out. And so the other guys are starting to move towards us, but we're the first ones there. My partner gets out, goes out to the passenger side. There's a female with him. I get out, and as I'm going around the front of my car, he this time has already got us. So he puts it in reverse, punches it, hits my car. And that caused me to hesitate for just a second because I'm thinking, oh, crap, I'm fixing to have to write a bunch of reports.
That's any cop's first thought.
So I'm
like, God
dog,
bless.
Yeah. And I'm like, shoot, I'm fixing to have to, do all this stuff. So that 1 second of hesitation there, thinking, oh, crap. I go up, as I'm reaching for the door, 3 shots ring out. And by this time, he put it back in forward in drive and put it back in reverse again and was coming back a second time. And one of the other officers made it up there to us and bumped him, stopped him right there. And as I'm reaching for the door, 3 shots ring out. I feel the glass actually hit me from where the bullets came out the window. So I was that close to, if I'd been just a little bit faster, one of them could have hit me.
Right.
My partner ended up shooting him because as he's putting it in reverse and he's reaching down, there's a gun in the center console. And so my partner ends up shooting him, and the bullet
from the passenger side.
One bullet hit him in underneath the pectoral muscle, went underneath it, came out, went through his arm and out the window. I think one got stuck in the car, and so 2 bullets flew out.
That's
one that hit him.
That's a good fucking shot. You guys carrying 357s?
I can't remember exactly what he was. Well, I carried a 40. I can't remember what he carried.
That's a good shot. Yeah.
So when I open up the door, I got him at gunpoint. The team comes running out of the hotel, and they get him down on the ground, and blood everywhere. He's bleeding. Get him down on the ground. They get him to the hospital, and the officer tells him, "Man, you're lucky to be alive." He goes, "No, they're lucky."
Jeez. Even in that vulnerable moment, he's not giving it up.
He's not giving it up. And the guy had been shot like the week before on another deal that he was doing.
Bad motherfucker.
So. The only place he's going to end up is either in prison or dead. I mean, at the route or the way he was going, that's where he was going to end up. And and I remember that day, a lot of associations. I remember one of the associations that will provide legal representation for you. So I call my office and I tell him, I said, hey, I didn't have to shoot him, but my partner did. And he says, well, does he have representation? I said, I think he's a member of the association also. So they said, we'll have a lawyer out there in just a few. Yeah. And it was good. He was out there within the hour. I told my partner, I said, hey, because my partner was still in kind of a little bit of shock, because when you're involved in a situation like that, they sat him down, had him in a car by himself. And I still remember, I said, hey, you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm okay. But he was a little bit out of it. And I said, hey, I already called the attorneys. They're coming out here to talk to us and just, you're okay.
Yeah, you're okay. Yeah.
And they came out, and they didn't make us give a statement that particular evening. We had to go back out like a day or two later and meet with them and give a statement.
It's a policy in the NYPD that the cops have 24 hours before the shooter has 24 hours to make a statement. And good on you, good partner to call this organization, because he really either can't or he hasn't thought about it. So that's a good partner.
And like I said, anytime you're involved in a situation like that,
always.
There's you got to look out for each other. I mean, I knew that it was going to be, because when he shot him, he was still having to wrestle. He was still wrestling with the female that was getting out of the car. So the other guy that bumped the car and stopped it, he got out and he starts fighting with her, and she's fighting him, and he's like, a little help over here. And so we're making fun of him after that. Say,
you couldn't handle this bitch, this meth head, this fucking bitch. Like, these cops just shot. Like, they fucking serious. You still want to fight? Like, I would have been like, okay, guys, you got me.
Yeah. So, and the guy ended up having 2 guns in the center console, a rifle in the back, and he had it in his head. He wasn't going to jail. He was going to shoot it out with us. He hit my car once and was about to come and hit it a second time, trying to get us out. So
trying to create the gap between the 2 patrol units.
So my department sent the chief. One of the chiefs was out there. We had internal affairs said, well, you didn't do any shooting. So the Rangers, I believe, handled that investigation. And what surprised me is that media didn't come out there because, anytime there's a shooting, a police shooting or whatever, there's media all over the place.
Well, I mean, who'd you shoot? I mean, not to be a dick, but nobody gives a fuck about this guy. What was the warrant for, though? Theft, like Class B theft.
It was probably for dope.
Yeah. Because those guys move dope. That's how they fund their organizations. What goes through your head? I mean, you got to do a bunch of paperwork. I mean, could you have shot? I mean, your life was that close to being threatened by this guy reaching for a gun. Do you just go home and eat a bunch of pizza?
That was a long day for us.
Yeah.
Like I said, because they have to do all their investigation. But
were you married at the time?
At that time, no. I was separated,
mm-hmm.
and so I had an empty house to go back to.
Is that harder or better?
In a way, I think it's
both, right?
Yeah. It is because your family is still going to worry about you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I called her and told her, I said, hey, this is what happened. It's just, I'm okay.
And she was like, good. I hope he fucking shot you. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. No, but so you don't have anyone in the home to offload this awful thing that happened to you.
Right.
We don't want to tell them everything that happens to us.
Right. And
but
for the most part, my whole career, like I said, I've been a police officer, sheriff's deputy for over 31 years.
Right.
And so it's one of those things where if I've seen a lot of different things, and I think to me, the thing that always gets me more is crimes involving kids.
Of course.
Kids getting hurt. But some of these people, they're grown people. They make those decisions to do that. And I've had family members that have been arrested too. And, and so I tell them, I said, I've already told you guys, if you guys get in any kind of issues or trouble, you're on your own. I mean,
don't
I'm not
fucking call my ass.
Yeah, don't call me. And they never failed. They always called me.
What the fuck am I gonna do?
And I'm like, sorry. I said, I love you. You're my brother. You're my sister, or whatever. But
your sister got hooked up for that? No,
I'm
kidding. No. And then I like this too. Kind of a side topic from that. When I stop someone on a car stop. I know Deputy Bob. Okay, and they get Deputy Bob on the phone. The right thing to do if you're Deputy Bob is to be like, yeah, I don't know why the fuck he called me, but you do you. I ain't in it. My name's Paul. This is between y'all.
I had an internal affairs investigation over something like that. My sister was dating a guy that's in prison now. He's a gang member that's in prison. And I get a call about 1 or 2 in the morning. And the officer said, he knows me. So he says, hey, I called you because this guy says he's married to your sister, or that he's your sister's boyfriend or whatever.
Boyfriend, right.
And I said, well, first of all, I said, I don't talk to my sister too much. We're kind of estranged because she's doing her own thing out there and getting into trouble. I said, so he's my sister's baby's daddy. They've got a kid together. But other than that, he ain't no relation to me. You treat him the way you would anybody else. I said, well, we had to chase him. He was on a motorcycle and he was throwing out dope and all kinds of other stuff. I said,
hit him with
then you do you. So then later on, he filed a complaint and says that I told the deputy to do certain things. And the only thing I told the deputy is treat him like you would anybody else. Don't give him any kind of special treatment. Treat him just like you would anybody else. And so, he made a complaint on the officer that arrested him and me. And when I went to internal affairs, of course I was pissed off. I said, I ain't done nothing. Why am I being called? Because he wrote a letter on the deputy, but my name got thrown in there by internal affairs, and I'm like, I didn't do anything like this. So I was upset when I had to write my little statement that they made me write.
You gotta ask yourself, how did the AP know about the cop calling you to
my sister?
Oh,
because he had said that my sister had been kidnapped by the cartel or whatever, that he owed some money. Because remember, I told you they were involved in drugs and things like that. So the next day I went out and looked for my sister. I called my brothers and I said, hey, have you seen her? And they said, she's at a hotel down off of 175 in Buckner, out there in that area. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with that area, but
I am, because I have my own story about I listened to this. I almost had to do what you did. I chased somebody down there, a friend who was a cop, who fell to drugs. And I mean, it's funny. I'm sorry to interrupt your story. No. It's Dallas, but it's like this is a different planet down there. And this is a good friend of mine, among my best friends, military hero, got on the job here in Texas. and I pulled up to some fucking shack. I carried 2 fucking guns on me just in case. And he answers the door, and eyes sunken into the back of his skull, just doped out with his whore fucking meth head girlfriend in the back, like, fuck you fucking cop, get the fuck out of here. And I'm like, Jimmy, it's not his real name. What are you doing? Like, it was really heartbreaking. And I can't even imagine family, family doing that. Did you find her?
Yeah. I went down there, told work, I said, hey, I got to take off. I got to go find my sister and stuff. So make sure she's not, kidnapped or anything like that. Cause that's what her boyfriend was telling us. And so I'll go down there to the hotel. There's a little hotel right there at the corner somewhere, right there off 175 in Buckner.
Yeah.
And I go knock on the door. I called her and I said, hey, I'm coming over to get you. She goes, yeah, because I'm staying here. And apparently the guy she was staying with was a dope dealer, and he had a girl there. His girlfriend was strung out on heroin, and she was there with her 2 kids. She had a kid that was, I think, 5 or 6 years old, Jesus. And a 2.5, 3-year-old little boy. And so I said, I'll come get you. I said, you need help. And I said, I'm going to offer the help. I was living by myself at the time. And I said, you can come stay with me. I said, but under certain conditions. Number 1, no drugs and no contact with any of your friends. I said, if you can do that, I will help you. Because CPS was after her too. Because, the way she was living, they wanted to take her kids, and she was pregnant. So, and she's living in this hotel infested with bed bugs. Because she told me, she goes, yeah, the bed has bed bugs. And I said, okay. I said, I'll pick you up. I'm going to take you home. Give the kids, get them showered up, get them cleaned up, get them some good clothes. And I called CPS and I said, hey, I've got her here. She's here with me. I'm a police officer. You can come down. And they came, talk to me, talk to her, and agreed that the kids were fine there as long as they were with me and with her. And it wasn't about a month and a half, 2 months later.
Here we go.
Yep. The drugs, she did meth, and it was too strong. She was making up any kind of excuse to leave the house. And I got, as being the big brother, I got upset with her, and I told her, why are you doing this? Because she wanted to go back to the place where she had lived before.
Well, that's where the drugs are available. Yeah. And
so it wasn't after she moved back out, and it wasn't probably about 2 or 3 weeks later. CPS is here taking the kids. Can you, by the time she had already had her baby, CPS is here taking the kids. Can you take on all 3 of them? I said, I'm a single guy working full time. I can't do it. I said, and luckily I have a cousin who stepped up, and he adopted all 3 kids.
Wow.
And took care of them. They moved out of state. The kids are doing great.
Oh my!
They are in school, healthy,
That's
and
so great.
Beautiful kids.
That's great.
And my sister, in the meantime,
where is she now?
About a year later, had another baby with somebody else. The baby stays with the boyfriend's mom because the boyfriend was deported.
Sure.
And my sister is in and out of
gone to the wind.
Yeah,
kinda.
Yeah. I talked to her on her birthday. I sent her a couple text messages wishing her happy birthday just a few weeks ago. Her birthday was late October.
Response?
And
any response?
Yeah. She contacted me, said she was working at a hotel and cleaning staff, and says, I hate it out here, but, I have a brother that's the same way that's involved. And I told him before, I said, because he would come and cry to me, telling me, I hate my life. I hate the way things are going. I said, well, all this is based on choices, the choices that you made. And he got upset at me. He was extremely pissed off because I tried to help them as much as I could, but
you can only do so much.
Yep.
You can't fight these forces, these addictive forces, right?
And so they both moved out of they got out of here. They're probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from the Metroplex at a small town. And I haven't talked to my brother in probably over a year. My sister, like I said, I just wished her happy birthday because about a year or 2 later, she came to me and I said, well, by this time I was married and had a house, and she needed some help. So I said, second time. So I said, I'm going to help you again. I said, this time, I said, you can stay at my house. We'll put up a room for you. We'll make a room. And I told her, I said, once again, the rules. No drugs, no involvement with these people. She was working. And so she did good for about 6 months this time. And I'm on the way home one afternoon, and she called me. She goes, hey, can you come get my car? I said, what happened?
Why?
I said, she goes, well, the cops have me there. I'm about to go to jail. I said, why are you about to go to jail? paraphernalia. They found a pipe in my car, but it's not mine. It's my boyfriend's. She goes, I think they were doing surveillance. I said, what were you doing? She told her boyfriend, and I think her boyfriend set her up in this particular situation because it's a small town, and they drove to the stove house that the police were watching without them knowing or whatever. He got out prior to going up to the house, and he disappeared, and then the cops pull her over.
Right.
And so she gets arrested for paraphernalia, and I've got a wife, kids. And I told her, I said, I'm sorry. I said, I had the rules. I told you, 0 tolerance for this stuff. If you come or get involved in any of this stuff, because I used to tell her, why are you with this guy? He's going to get you in trouble. He's going to get you in trouble. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And I told her, I said, I love you. You're my sister. I said, but you can't stay here.
You're done. Yeah.
Yep. And so it hurt me, but I had to break off contact with her for a while. And, I check on her. About a year later, she came to the house and she says, hey, I'm just passing through. I don't have a place to live. I said, well, you can stay overnight. She goes, I think I'm going to go stay with a friend. I said, okay. You can stay overnight if you want to. She goes, no, I'm just going to go ahead and drive over there. And then I didn't hear no contact from her for another 4 or 5 months until just recently, like I said.
The birthday test.
Yep.
Do you think is it possible she's clean?
Drugs. You remember what Rick James said, right?
Right. Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Well, meth. I have seen meth destroy lives.
It's a death sentence.
It's affected my family. I had 2 brothers and a sister that got involved in it, and I've seen what it's done to my sister. Okay. She's had 4 kids and can't even see the kids.
Right. So, is it 4 kids? The 4 of you?
As far as my family goes, yeah. I've got 3 brothers and a sister.
3 brothers, a sister, and then you. So 5 kids.
Yep.
Okay. You tell me how 5 kids, you all raised the same parents, same household, same system, family values, and then you have one fucking normal. It's not like 20% of people out here are cops, and then the other 40, the other 80% are fucking dopeheads.
Well, I grew up in the Pleasant Grove area, and Pleasant Grove is very varied,
same circumstances, right?
And so I made it through high school. I was the first one to graduate in my family. And my dad was very demanding, very strict on all of us when we were growing up.
Right.
And so, but my dad passed away. When I think he passed away, I was about 20, 21. And my brothers were probably about 18, 17, 16. My sister was 17 years younger than us.
You're the eldest.
Yes. So my sister was the youngest one. She was born when I was 17. So she was 17 years younger than me. So I was about to graduate high school.
That makes sense.
And so when my dad passed away, she was about 2-3 years old.
Right.
And my mom never got remarried, but
it's just different. It's just different. We're not making any commentary on 2 parents, but it's just different. Right?
When you grow up in a 1-parent household,
you get what I'm saying?
My mom did the best she could, but my brother ended up joining. My younger brother joined one of the gangs, a street gang down there in Pleasant Grove. Mm-hmm. The majority of the gang broke up because most of the gang ended up in prison. Mm-hmm. He was one of the ones that didn't end up going into prison, but most of them did go. He got out of the gang lifestyle, started trying to work, but the dope got a hold of him. Mm-hmm. And so I've got one brother that's deceased now, and one that, like I said, my younger brother that's still involved in some of that stuff. And he would never admit to me that he was.
Sure, but you're not stupid.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you took the helm. Dad and mom raised you. Dad passes, and then it kind of causes this ripple effect.
Yep.
Now you're a young cop. You're trying to make it. You've ended up getting a family yourself, and you're working these different assignments. In the meantime, you have this very deep, close personal connection to drug and drug addiction. Well, that's got to fuck with your head, right? That dichotomy, I'm busting these people for drugs. In the meantime, my family. So does that motivate you? Like, I am going to get these motherfuckers who are peddling this fucking poison.
I think it does in a way to try to get these people that are actually peddling the stuff out there. Because I know what it's done
firsthand, what it does to fucking families.
Yep. And like I said, this was at the beginning. It wasn't as much. It wasn't until a few years later, after I was already working narcotics and had been an officer for a while, that they started getting involved. Because, like I said, I told my mom, I said, if they call me, I'm not getting involved. I said, they know. And I've already talked to them. They all had the understanding, but it never failed. Every time they were arrested, I had one of my brothers, the SWAT team hit his house or whatever. They had a search warrant and stuff. And And then, like I said, the involvement with my sister. I'm at work one day and I get a phone call. It's a county that's probably about 3 or 4 counties away. Mm-hmm. And I think they were trying to test to see if I had some involvement, because it was the chief that called me, chief and somebody else, and they had her in the interrogation room. So I'm pretty sure she had given my name and said, hey, this is my brother. He's a cop. And so they called me and they said, hey, we got your sister here. And I'm like, Chief, I said, I have nothing to do with my sister. I said, I don't talk to her. We're estranged. So whatever she did, treat her like you would anybody else. And then he said, okay, take her out of the room. Then he talked because he was trying to determine if I was somehow involved with her or involved in this, because her and her boyfriend went up to Louisiana and I think got like $18,000. I don't know if they sold, picked up, or did something, but on the way back they were high, so they just stopped in the middle of the road, pulled off into a field. Next day there was a cop passing by.
Suspicious vehicle.
So
or something.
He stops him. Her boyfriend jumps out of the car, tries to run. She gets caught right there. So they had him for, I think they were charging him with money laundering. I think he ended up copping to it and said, hey, it's mine, or whatever. Uh-huh. But just getting caught in the wrong situation, talking to all these guys that I've talked to over the years, it's always just bad timing. I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time. Right. And so she's lucky she didn't get a
charge herself.
Yep.
I don't want to keep hammering your family and your, because you're a great guy and you're fun and you're personable and you're calm and collected, but you have this heavy burden on your shoulders. And I wanted to tie it back to coming home alone versus coming home to a family. How did you deal with this? How do you deal with and still being a good cop and having integrity and working your cases? And you were a sergeant too. You were a supervisor, right?
At the last part of my career, yes, I promoted up, and the reason it took me so long to promote up is because I enjoyed what I was doing. I liked my job, and so I didn't promote up till the last.
And your role changed once you promoted up, right? IAB, right? Yeah.
The last year I was responsible for over 80 people on a shift. So
right, yeah. And so, is that like on patrol or
no? This was
internal affairs, right? Yeah. Okay, so just going back for a second, yeah, man, like what a burden to shoulder, right? How do you deal with it personally? I mean, do you talk to somebody? I found one of the topics on my show is, and I've been kind of dipping my toe into sort of mental health, and it's helping me explore my own coping mechanisms because towards the end of my career, I was on the job for 15 years. These questions stopped. Oh, how was your day? What did you do? Oh, tell me about that. And then I, in turn, reciprocated by never talking about the job, and it became this vicious cycle where it's like, how was your day? It was fine. I saw somebody die. This fucking tanker exploded and there was somebody inside of it. So how do you deal with that when you have your personality? Because you have this thing I didn't.
Right. When we were involved in that shooting and some of the things that I've seen, I've got a lot of different hobbies. I'm a big collector of different items, different things, memorabilia. I love music, and so movies. I'm a movie buff, and just I keep myself busy. If you got time to dwell and think about all these things,
that's the poison.
If you're just constantly on your mind and stuff, then that's what starts affecting you and stuff. But if you stay busy, and I stay busy. Even after I retired and now I went back to work, I took a year off and I went back to work.
Yeah, you're back on the job.
The job that I'm doing right now, working with kids, and the kids I work with are 11, 12-year-olds, 10, 11, 12-year-olds.
All gangbangers. I'm like, hey, man.
And it's a good feeling knowing that, because originally when I wanted to be a police officer, I wanted to help people like the neighborhood that I grew up in. They didn't have the figures there, the mentors. They didn't have anybody. When I was growing up, the cops were the bad guys. I still see people come around and say, hey, if you don't behave, the cop's going to take you.
I hate that.
And I'm the same way. I hate when they do that, because the kids, one thing that I've done is over the years, I've learned how to do magic tricks.
Oh, that's so
and
cute.
And the kids love it. They always call in the lunchroom. They'll call me over.
I knew there was something about you. Yeah. I didn't like, no, that's so cute though, right?
And so just like last night at the game, I had a bunch of little 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds. They were over there. Hey, can you do a magic trick? So now they seek me out, asking me to do a magic trick for them. And it's simple little magic stuff that I do for them. But it blows their mind. Oh my God, how did you do that? How did you do that? And so I have a good time. I enjoy, and I think this part of my career that I'm in now, working with the kids and seeing the difference that you can make with the kids, and because now some of the kids have moved on, and I'll see them at the other school, and they're like, "Hey, officer," and they'll come over there, give me a hug, and just talk to me and stuff. And to me, I think you have to build that up when they're young, because as they get older, because if not, you're going to still see a lot of the parents like, that officer's going to take you if you don't behave, So
at the bare minimum, you've at least stripped away this veneer of I'm scared of the police. That's the minimum. Yeah. At a maximum, you've formed that bond, right? I had a guest who said that because he's actually a community affairs. He's like an NPO. And he said that what they would do is they just teach CPR. And I jokingly said to him, I was like, do you fucking know CPR? But he said and that's their sort of like hook into the community. And he said, not only that, but a community member used CPR to save somebody in their church or whatever the fuck. And he's like, they remember, Officer Bob from, Left Elbow Police Department taught me.
And I'll give you, when I was with the sheriff's office, we went out actually to another city, another county, to do a school presentation for the kids. And I told the kids my name, and I would give them my first name, and I said, it sounds like this. And I would drag it out kind of like a whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
And so one day I'm downtown, we're doing something, and I hear a bunch of kids calling my name. And I'm like, where's that coming from? It was the kids from the school in another county. They were down here on a field trip, and they're calling my name, and they all came over there, talked to me, and it's really made me feel good that they remembered after, I hadn't seen them in about a year, but they recognized me, and they called my name, and I went over there, and it was a good moment for me. It made me feel really good that they were able to recognize me, and that's something I had done and been in their class.
I've told people that, for us, it's another call or another school that we worked at or another off duty. But for that person, it's everything. And so for those kids, that little interaction with you, however many years prior, was everything, right?
And remember I told you that the dealing with the kids. And so now that I'm actually working with a lot of them, I've gone out on home visits with a lot of these people, and it's a small town, and so there's a lot of rural area out there. And some of these kids, you get to see how they live and the housing situation, and so when I see them at school, I try to help them as much as I can and talk to them. And
I grew up poor. For a lot of poor kids, school is a respite from their home life. It's where they have, and I'm not kidding, air conditioning and food and fucking clean, so the fact that you can contribute to that is really special.
I had one kid that was the first week that I started over there at the school. He came up to me and he said, "Hey, are you the new officer here?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I'm so-and-so. You're going to get to know me." And throughout the year, he was in and out of in-school suspension, getting into all kinds of issues. And I would talk to him, and I talked to him throughout the year. And, I felt comfortable that I was getting to know him.
Right.
But his home situation, his home life, it didn't help because his mom would disappear. Then his grandmother would have to take care of him. Then his sister would have to take care of him. So he was moving from house to house.
And, of course, dad is gone the wind.
Right, I think his dad was in prison.
Sure.
And so inside, I felt like he was a good kid. But he's a small kid. So I think he was trying to make himself compensate for that and make a name for himself, because schools can be pretty tough, and the kids can be pretty tough.
Kids are fucking assholes. Kids are fucking assholes. And he would come in and he'd talk to me. He'd say, "Hey," he'd look at my pictures. I have my office decorated with a bunch of stuff, and they would come in and talk about the different things that I've got up on the wall or on the shelf. And he would come in, and if he saw other kids getting into issues or problems, he would come in and say, "Hey, so-and-so got into a fight earlier, or so-and-so did this, or so-and-so did that." And I say, "Okay, well, thank you for letting me know," and stuff. And then, you're giving him a sense of agency now, right? Like, you have the power to make your community better.
But, I think he felt comfortable coming to me if something was happening. So then he moved up to the other school, and he got into some issues over there, because I think he was one of those that you have to stay on him because of his home life.
That guiding light, right?
Yep.
I think you said it earlier, in the neighborhood you grew up, there were no role models, right? There were no yous. You didn't exist. And that's so important. Kids are essentially little boats out in the fucking water, and if they don't have a sail or a rudder or an engine, they're just going to be out there floating until the shark that is inevitably society fucking eats them.
And it will. I mean, they are out there, and in Spanish they say la mala asociación echa a perder los buenos hábitos or whatever, and the bad associations will corrupt the good in a person or whatever. So if you're hanging out with the wrong kind of kids, I saw it in the jails.
I love that dish, by the way. Number 2 that's shitty. You see it in the jails. Why are you here? Let me guess. Okay, drugs in the house. Dad wasn't in the picture. Siblings in jail. Like it's so fucking predictable.
And I had just recently. There's one of the girls that goes to my school. I get a call from the supervisor, and he says, "Hey, we're going out on a home visit. A kid missed the bus." So when they took him out there and they got out to the house was very bad. I mean, it was. I think the kid said that he was taking a shower out in the pool in the front yard, and the parents weren't there, so they were being left unsupervised, and so CPS was called, and CPS came out there. So the next day they tell me, I said, which student is it? And they tell me the girl, and I said, oh my God, because I've talked to her throughout the year, and I know her at school. She's a good kid, learning, one of the students that you never have any issues of. So they said, well, you may have to translate because I speak Spanish or whatever. And they said, you may have to translate.
Not after that. Are you sure? After that bullshit fucking saying you just, no. Yeah.
So I prepared her, and I said, hey, they're here to talk to you about your home life. So,
right.
Trying to put her at ease a little bit. And
are you with CPS or just the schools?
Just the schools.
Okay. All right.
But every once in a while, because I'm in a district where they don't have a lot of Spanish speakers, and we have a lot of Spanish speakers throughout the North Texas area.
Right. So the city, or your district, in Texas, it's independent school districts. Your independent school district, that city, there weren't, but only have recently been a lot of Hispanics, right? I say that because I think I told you this, right? My wife is from that town.
Mm-hmm. There's a large, the population is still growing, and so there's a lot of kids, and right. I feel bad for them because a lot of school districts aren't prepared for the influx, because a lot of these kids don't speak the language, and so they have to work around. Because I think at my school there's only a couple people that
speak Spanish, right? Yeah. And now you're like, oh my God, this poor little sweetheart is like, just you want to talk about all of the odds stacked against your shitty home life, and so you go out to translate and talk to her.
And she tells me, she goes, no, it's not like that. Her parents apparently work cleaning or roofing job or something, and they're there in the afternoon. There's a lady that lives next door that comes over. They stay with her until the parents get there. And so it wasn't, because her brother was he's I think like in the second grade, and she goes, we don't take showers out in the pool and stuff like that. So
we do it in the garage. Come on now, we're not animals.
So it's not. But I talked to her and I said, hey, are you okay? Do you need anything? How's things at home? And so every day I make it a point to check in with her and ask her and just make sure, and I told my wife, because you can't help but talk about some of this. And she's like, we need to make sure they got a good Christmas, they got a good Thanksgiving and stuff like that. And there's just so many kids like that they're barely surviving, but at school they put up a good front. And I know that the situations aren't very good at home sometimes. In fact, I had one lady the other day that stopped me, and she says, I got called by my supervisor. He got flagged down, and I go over there and I said, what's the problem? And she said, well, my daughter, I can't deal with her anymore. I've had it. She shows us no respect. She tells me that she hates me, and I can't control her anymore. And I'm kind of like,
well, what do you want
me to do? And she said, well, they just called me from the school. I got to go pick her up. I said, okay. So I go over there with her, and I said, I'll go over there with you just to get the full story. So I go over there, and they said, well, the daughter had been cutting herself, and this is a high school kid. And so anytime that a kid self-harms, they have to call the parents, and they have to get evaluated.
100%, yeah.
So they said she can't come back to school. She needs help right now. She's already been evaluated by the counselors or whatever, and she needs to.
This is an emergency.
Yes.
Yeah, this is an emergency.
And so the mom, so I talked to the girl, and she tells me, she goes, well, my mom makes me feel so bad. She tells everybody she knows that I'm ungrateful, I don't appreciate them, and that I'm just a bad kid. And the mom's sitting there, I can't give you some of the things that you want right now, because I think the girl wanted haircuts, she wanted her nails done and stuff like that, and the dad had fallen off a roof. He's a roofer, so financially they didn't have a lot of money at this point.
Okay.
So they were arguing, bickering, going back and forth. And I told her, I had to read her the documents that they give her, that she needs to go get mental help, or else CPS is going to get involved.
Right.
And the mother sat there and told me, well, let CPS take her. I just can't deal with her. Let CPS take her. I said, ma'am, she is still your daughter. I said, you are to provide and care for her. And I said, for you to just say casually, just let CPS take her.
I don't know these people. I want to be like, bitch, do you really fucking mean this? Because, I'll fucking call your bluff. Here's somebody from CPS right now. You good? Sign on the dotted line. You don't fucking really mean this.
So, and I don't think, I think just the anger had built up between the two, and they were just at odds. But I mean, as a police officer,
what the fuck are we going to do? We have to intervene in this mental crisis.
Right.
But other than that, what else can I do?
I mean, I can't go to their house and say, hey, you need to do what your mom tells you.
Now the mom starts beating the shit out of her right in front of you. Like, now you have to take action.
But and that makes me feel, because the girl, I think, was 15 years old.
She needs help.
And so her mom was like, well, she's dating. It's ever since she got her boyfriend. I let her date, and her boyfriend, it's because of her boyfriend. So I asked her, I said, why did you cut yourself? And she goes, well, she didn't tell me why. She told me that she did it the night before, but the teacher told me that it was because apparently her boyfriend had been cheating or talking to other girls and stuff. So, and her boyfriend then come to find out is out of school. So
okay, but we're not stupid as adults. We know she didn't cut herself because she's depressed over the boyfriend. She cut herself because she's depressed. She's undergoing.
She needs help.
And we need to. There's so much of Asians particularly, but a little bit in the Latino culture, which is like, depression, mental health, this is not a thing. Shut the fuck up. Get to work. Stop being like the mom was saying, right? Stop whining and complaining. Newsflash, raising kids is difficult. It can be difficult. And, you gotta change the way you think, right? We can't beat the fucking shit out of our kids anymore into compliance. You gotta change the way, because raising kids is fucking hard. And I think there's, it's funny. Thank God for you and the school staff. But in the same time, there's so much out there where they rely on us to be, meaning the police and the government, to be like, well, for 8 hours, they're your fucking problem, right? And, oh, by the way, this kid's fucking cutting on themselves and gonna die. No, we brought them here to fucking learn shapes and colors, not solve your home problems. So Jesus, I used to, and as I'm saying all of this, this is a confession. My buddy and I used to always kind of shit talk non-city cops. Like, they're not fucking real cops. Work at a school and a hospital chasing fucking drunks around all the day. He then became a school cop. He's like, this shit's hard. and it is. And thank God for school cops.
Well, like I said, I did 30 years at another department, and this is I'm almost there a year now, and I'm finding it rewarding. It's challenging. I mean,
it is, right? Yeah. Did you have that same outlook on ISD and fucking hospital?
No, I never really did, because based on our own department, you always had these other officers in other sections. Oh, y'all don't do nothing anyway. Oh, yeah. And I remember I was booking in one guy one night, and the detention officer that was working there, he told me, he says, man, he goes, I never seen you guys here. I thought all y'all did was go out and eat pizza. Where did that come from?
I mean, we are after this, after we booked this guy in. You worked for a very large sheriff's office in a municipality or a very urban area, but I worked in rural areas and was surrounded by smaller sheriff's offices. I tend to find that your former department were good. And I know folks from there, and they almost operated like a municipal police department, but God bless it, sheriff's offices were the banes of my existence. What's your, I got to imagine you worked side by side with some SOs. For me, it was laziness, not recognizing the law, an air of arrogance, and then kind of shitting on small cities within their jurisdiction. What happens when you work for the sheriff's office? You just grow a beard and you get a Dodge Ram, and all of a sudden you hate all the small cities. Like, what happens? Or am I completely full of shit?
Well, every department has issues, has problems, and the sheriff's department is no different. I heard of a situation probably a few months ago where an officer was writing a ticket, and somebody runs out to him and says, "Hey, the store's getting robbed." And so the officer says, "Well, I'll take care of it as soon as I finish this." And so the guy comes out and she says, "Hey, stop. You need to stop. I need to talk to you." And he's like, "F you," and gets in his car and leaves. Mm-hmm. So instead of doing something, she tells dispatch to call the city.
Right.
And I'm like, what the?
You told me about this story, and what happened to our illustrious
that I'm
deputy?
I'm not sure what happened, since I'm not there anymore.
Right,
I haven't got the scoop as to what ended up happening to her, but
yeah. So yeah, the problem exists everywhere, but not everyone's the Dallas Police Department, right? And not everyone is the Fort Worth Police Department. Not everyone's your sheriff's office. I felt that we lost some camaraderie in police work.
Well, I think right now you have a mass exodus. You have a lot of people that are leaving the law enforcement community,
right? And
you're losing a lot of experience. You're losing a lot of knowledge that's going out the door.
Because veterans are like, fuck this.
I talked to somebody just recently, and they told me the sheriff's department is a whole lot different now. It's a younger generation, and they're pretty much well in charge of it now. And
is
so
is that good or bad?
Well, you don't have the experience because a lot of the young people that are there now haven't been through the things that the veteran officers have been through. They've promoted up and haven't really had the experience, because I didn't promote up to supervisor till very late in my career.
That's how long it took for you, right?
And so, I always, as a deputy in the position I always, if anybody needed any help, any agencies or any officers, hey, ask me, and you got my help. What do you need? I would go out of my way to help them.
The way it's supposed to be.
But I don't know if it's still the same or if things are a little bit different now. But I remember a buddy of mine told me one day, somebody mentioned something and said, "Hey, there's a city cop right there," and he's like, "Man, I ain't scared. This is my county." And so, yeah, but this is his city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when we talk about jurisdiction, let's set aside the law for just one moment. You and I both know the law and what one can do over the other. Really, thanks to the recent revisions to Article 12, there's really not much that the municipality can do or can't do. And there's not much that the county officer can or can't do. Everybody can work contemporaneously. But the pissing contests, I don't get.
And see, I never had too much of that. I remember working and I was assigned to one of the federal task forces, and we were doing a knock and talk operation, trying to find some narcotic complaint that we had, or I think it was we were going to try to do a search of a house or whatever, and we had some backup from DPD, and they pulled up, and I was running the operation, and they were surprised to see me, and we were down there. It was down in Pleasant Grove area, and there was another incident where me and my buddy are on a surveillance operation, and we see a guy running across the street. He's being chased. So we get out and catch him and get him down on the ground. DPD shows up. They catch up to the guy, and they see my badge, and my partner, who wasn't with our agency, I was on the task force.
Oh, right.
He saw the expression of the DPD officer whenever he said, "Oh, it's the sheriff's office," or whatever. So, his expression just changed. I never had that issue with the other agencies. I was always willing to cooperate, but I think it can be prevalent in some smaller agencies.
Wait, so I'm sorry. What was the reaction when the first story you said they were surprised to see you?
It was almost disappointment, and that a sheriff's deputy caught the bad guy for him. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, like you're fishing in our backyard and you caught the big mouth bass.
So
was it that way the second time too? Kind of like, huh?
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, we didn't know you guys got out and did something. We thought all y'all did was take care of the jail."
Yeah, we do that too. But
the sheriff's office that I work for has everything that a regular police officer, police department does and stuff. So
you guys also have traffic, and you handle major crashes on interstate highways. And then you also famously, we had a conversation about this. You famously respond like a municipal police department to unincorporated areas or areas with no police force, namely, this shitty town that hasn't since gotten a police department.
Since gotten police force.
That's like a bunch of fucking Keystone cops. Like I'll tell you off the air, but I'm looking at my producer. Anyway, I think a large sheriff's office, to me, in my mind, in my eye, operates a little more professionally, and I was always okay with your agency, but small area, you say something that goes against the grain, especially in a rural county, which is where I was, a bunch of fucking, people who didn't look like me, and you're persona non grata, right? You're the disruptor, and too much ego in sheriff's departments.
And I think there is.
It starts at the top too.
The sheriff's department is a political office. It's elected office.
Right. And if you step on the wrong toes, you ain't gonna be sheriff no more.
Yeah. So you have to be aware of that. And I've made some supervisors upset with me, and I got denied doing some things for about a year or so. But when they need you, they come back around and say, "Hey, we need your help on this."
As we wrap up your episode here, can you think of a moment in your career that really, really stood out to you? My question to guests used to be, tell me about the best collar of your life. And then I had a guest come in one time who said, well, actually, this thing that I did that helped a pregnant woman in the hospital was better than any collar I could have ever had. Is there a moment that stands out to you other than almost getting shot?
There's been a lot of different moments, but I think just seeing the expression on people's face when you help them do something, and it can be even as minor as, I've worked internal affairs before, and so I'd get complaints on officers and the Hispanic community, the language barrier that's present, and you're aware that there can be a language barrier between officers. And at the academy I've taught, I teach or I've taught Spanish. And, I've had people that are extremely grateful that they can talk to somebody with their own language and resolve situations. Because I've had officers that say, well, they came to help and they said, you need to get back to the back of the line. You need to go find somebody that speaks English because I can't help you.
You don't have anybody here you can translate. Yep. I talked about it with a former guest who was born in Mexico. But anyway, he said that, it's not a race thing. It's just hearing your own tongue and gives you a feeling of comfort. And then I complain because I worked with a lot of racist fucking white cops who were like, well, they're in America. They should learn how to speak English. Okay, motherfucker, you tell me what's going to happen sooner. All fucking 11 million Latinos in Texas learn fucking English, or you take a little bit of time just to learn some basic dialogue. And how about this? I know it's fucking crazy, but form a connection with not the defendant, but with the citizen. Traffic stop, young Latin female who was unlicensed, and I cut her a summons for no license. And she said to me, do I pay you now? Like, ¿cuánto cuesta? How do I pay? I'm like, oh, no, you're not fucking paying me roadside. And when I was explaining it to her, you could just see the wave of relief over her. I'm like, no me paga, okay, llama al corte, si quiere un cita, if you want a date at the court. And then she was like, oh, okay, like it's fucking different here in America. And just the way I appreciated seeing that wave of relief over her. And then, I work with these Hispanic officers who don't speak Spanish. They're the coconuts, and they show up like, oh, Chavez, es lo que pasó. And I'm like, you got to talk to the Chinese guy. Talk to me. Your connections. So how in IA, we're making complaints against officers. Is that bringing you satisfaction to alleviate the citizen's concern or exonerate a cop? Which one?
To me, if it's a bad officer, he don't need to be there.
100%.
So, when I first, I had a buddy that worked internal affairs, and he told me, he said, "Man, you would not believe what some of these officers get themselves into." He goes,
Dumb
that
shit.
people that you know,
Yeah.
and so when I started doing some of that, I would tell the officers, hey, just tell the truth. If you did it, you did it. Don't lie about it. And I think
how many took your advice? What percentage would you say people took your advice? 50-50?
No, I think there was a few. I mean, because you were investigating people that you worked with that you knew, and so
that's got to be tough.
The positions that I've had, the jobs that I've had to remain unbiased. I couldn't let anything influence me, and I had to let the case itself,
speak for itself.
Yeah, speak for itself, which way it was going to go. And so, to me, I've done a lot in my career, and I've gotten some bad officers out.
Good.
I've had to arrest some officers.
Good.
And it's not a good feeling, but it's one of those things where I'm going to do my job, and if you're out there doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, then you're going to have to answer for that. Well,
you swore to uphold the law, and not only did this officer violate the law, but he violated the public's trust. I don't want to work at the fucking same department he does.
When I was working one position, I was doing public integrity investigations, and then I was doing internal affairs. So I did two different types of investigations, and the public integrity is the criminal acts. Internal affairs usually policy violations.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So,
and being a cop is a privilege; it's not a right. And you worked hard for it, but it can be taken away from you pretty fucking quickly. And did your department have the same stick? So when I came up in I was a New York City auxiliary police officer from 1999 to 2002, and in the New York City Police Department, the internal affairs is actually its own bureau, is IAB, and that's the rat squad, right? Like you're a fucking traitor now. I didn't seem to find that sentiment here in Texas as much because they're small police departments. They called it professional standards. But in your large department, did IAB have a stigma to it?
I think when I was doing the public integrity investigations I was out on something, I got a few comments from some of the officers and said, well, you out here spying on us, your typical stuff. And I'm like, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you ain't got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
But it's one of those situations where I've been blessed to have been able to work at a big department like I did. I've got a lot of experience. You've seen, you've heard some of my resume or whatever. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity that the Sheriff's Department gave me, and it's made me the officer that I am today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm still enjoying it. There's a lot of people, I used to hear people complain all the time. Oh, I hate this. They complain about everything. I said, dude, if you hate it so much, why are you still here? And they're like, I wasn't talking to you. I said, no, but you're saying that loud enough to where I can hear you.
This job is absolutely a gift. And it's not it's not without its errors. It's simultaneously the best and worst job in the world.
And I'll tell you another story real quick before we leave. I don't drink. I don't smoke.
Right, yeah.
And so it's funny, when I first met my wife, her family found it. They questioned me. They said, they asked, are you on the 12-step program? No, I just don't drink. And they're like, that's very uncommon for a police officer not to drink. And a lot of people, based on some of the things that they see, they get involved in that. Like I said, there's all kinds of other things you can do. Keep yourself busy and because as police officers, a lot of people don't realize we see a lot of different things. I mean, you were talking about accidents that we've worked and stuff. I remember I got called out on a thing. This officer had gotten into a chase. I think it was a guy, he was on the highway, pulled over or got up on the highway on the service road and decided he was going to run on foot across the highway, and an 18-wheeler was coming, and there wasn't much left of him. And so I could see when I got there that the officer that had done the chase, it affected him. I mean, he was upset. He was visually upset that, what if he hadn't chased this guy? The guy would still be alive, but he was doing his job, and unfortunately the guy made a bad decision and decided to cross the freeway. I've seen a lot of people hurt, but like I said, it can affect you if you let it. And if you're one of those people that need to talk to somebody, then I would highly suggest talk to somebody. But you've got to have in your mind, you've got to be able to process that stuff. And I remember when I first went over to narcotics, the guys told me, they said, hey, part of the interview process, are you thin skin or thick skin? I said, what do y'all mean? He said, well, if you screw up around here, we're going to let you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, if you know, so you can't be thick-skinned because we're going to talk all kinds of crap about you. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
So you develop that, but a lot of times it can also hurt
That's
police
how you
officers.
I'm sorry, but that's how you become a better cop.
Yeah. So what I've told a lot of people, hey, do the job the best you can, and everything else will fall in line. But just have your sense, that code that you have, and just make sure you don't violate that code or whatever, that you stay, you know, why you got into it. You remember why you got into what you're doing.
So important.
And so that's the reason I'm still enjoying it. I like going to work. I have an issue, like I said, seeing the kids every morning get off the bus. And it's a different, I'm doing something different than what I did the last 30 years. So.
But the reason that you signed up in the first place, that hasn't changed.
Yep. And that's still to help people, like, because when I grew up, like I said, I didn't have a police mentor. My dad was a blue collar, or not, you know, he was a mechanic, body man, painter.
Yeah, blue collar. Yeah.
So, and you know, the majority of my brothers and family members and stuff, he trained them how to do that type of work, and I was on that same path until I deviated and decided to get into police work and stuff. So,
because you'd make a horrible mechanic.
No, I still do my own little things here and there, but they've made it a lot harder for us now.
He's like, I replaced my own windshield washer, fluid, and everything.
Portions of the day's programming are reproduced by means of electrical transcriptions or tape recordings.
Thanks so much for listening and spreading the word about the show. Comment to let us know what you'd like to hear and see, and visit our website at nfipodcast.com for news and merch. Support us by becoming a Patreon member, buy us a coffee, or pay our student debt. Keep in touch via all platforms to hear new episodes on a sort of weekly basis. It just depends on how many people I have to yell at that particular week. I'll see you out there. In the meantime, stay safe and remember, do your job.
Flashback, 72, another summer in the neighborhood.